Hey everybody, welcome to the Green Architects Lounge podcast. I'm your host, Chris Briley.
And I'm your host, Phil Kaplan.
Hey Phil.
Hey Chris.
How's it going?
Today, really good.
Yeah?
Good.
Yeah.
You know, the world's a little weird right now, but
It's freaking weird right now.
yeah.
Timestamp for us, it's
January 2026.
Yeah, so this is probably going to air a month later or something like that.
Yeah. But
Right now,
things are starting to, I feel a little fun. Yeah, I can feel a little buzz in the back of my neck, as it were.
yeah, I feel like I'm coming down like I have a rash or something.
No.
Oh, just before we hit record, I'm looking at the camera, I'm like, I'm turning red. I hope I'm not allergic to something in this awesome
I
cocktail.
brought in a really, really weird liqueur or an Amaro that you're going to hear about in a second.
Yeah.
But before we talk about that, what are we talking about today, Chris?
Today, we thought we'd take on the tiny little topic of America's housing crisis.
Yeah, that's it. It's probably going to be a very short podcast.
gosh.
It's going to be in and out.
I don't know what we're doing. We decided we're going to be refilling drinks on this one because, so here's how it usually happens. Phil and I get together, we talk about what we want to talk about, what we're exploring, and usually that becomes a podcast because our head's already in it. And in this case, we were kind of drawing a blank and we were just kind of chit-chatting about things and we found ourselves talking about
Just like knee deep.
Yeah,
Getting
affordable-
really fired up.
affordable housing, the housing crisis. And before, a good 10 minutes passed before we were like, we kind of like came out and we're like,
You should record this.
we should have recorded that. That was a good conversation. So we're just going to have a conversation about the housing crisis that faces America, because basically there is a housing shortage, as many of you, I'm sure, already know.
And what our role is it in the crisis? What can we do about it? As architects and builders and people in the industry, we're so central to this. So
Yeah.
we've got a real say. So
So we thought, let's talk about it. You nerds are not going to get your cool detail of whatever this is or use this product and all that. But join us, won't you, on this? And we promise our next podcast will be maybe a little less heavy and more building science.
yeah, there won't be a single number with like a decimal point following it. There'll be some percentages.
Percentages and rough estimates, but you nerds will love that. I think you'll like this one too.
So Chris, let's talk about the cocktail.
Yes, it's winter outside. It's
Yeah.
cold outside. It's going to get into the single digits in a
Yeah.
couple days. So we're having ourselves our version of a hot toddy. Cheers, first of all, my good friend.
And we're calling it a hot paper toddy. And the reason is because it's a little bit of a mix of a hot toddy and a paper plane.
That's right. And if you're not familiar with a paper plane, well, maybe that's our next cocktail. Have we had a paper?
We must have had a paper plane.
We must have had a paper plane. This is a perennial problem for us, by the way. We were like, what are we going to do for the cocktail? And we name one, and we're like, oh, we already did that one.
When you drink too much, you just start forgetting things.
Yeah, so don't you kids do it. Don't you do it.
Don't do what we do. I wouldn't recommend.
So anyway.
So you want to tell us what's in this, Chris?
I do, yeah. Have you even...
This is more you than me. This is you're the hot toddy guy.
I'm the hot toddy guy, but
Yeah.
then all right, here we go. We have bourbon, which is, in my mind, the essential hot toddy drink. A lot of people go with rum, but here I think we've got some Woodford's Reserve, and you want 1.5 ounces of that. And then we've got, what do we have next? Maple syrup.
I'll be your Vanna White.
Yes, thank you, Vanna. Maple syrup. We've got 1/2 ounce of the maple syrup for your essential sweetness.
Maine fresh. In this
Maine,
case,
of course.
Trader Joe's from Maine, as far as you know.
As far as we know. Don't go with that Canadian crap.
No.
Commies.
Or the Vermont stuff.
With Vermont stuff. This is the main stuff.
That's right.
And you can email us at thegreenarchitectslounge@gmail.com if you feel otherwise. So, and then we go with lemon juice. We want 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lemon juice. If you grab the plastic lemon with the green top, we will send someone over to smack that out of your hand. And then the piece that Phil brought is a great Italian Amaro, which I like a lot. I'm not familiar with it at all, but it's Rucolino.
Rucolino.
Which actually gets its name from arugula, because it's an Italian Amaro.
How cool is that?
Yeah, which is an Italian
Like a bitter liqueur.
Bitter liqueur.
Yeah.
And what we have, 3/4 of an ounce of that. And it's good to heat your glass up first, which we failed to do, but whatever. We were in a hurry. Heat your glass first, build the ingredients in your glass, top it all off, nice and hot and steamy. And on these cold winter nights, my God.
Don't forget a little twist of
lemon on top.
Yeah, and just squeeze the oils on top.
Express the oils out onto it. Here we go.
Could use a little ginger or something too. Wouldn't that be kind of nice? Nice round.
Or even cinnamon if you dare. Feel free to mess with this, the ratios. This Rucolino you could replace with some other Amaro and then probably increase your maple syrup because this is actually a sweeter Amaro. So
right. So for those of you who know Amaros that are a little more typical, like a Maletti or an Averna is kind of comparable to this one. A little bit of a sweeter Amaro goes really well.
And only mildly allergic to for some people. Keep an eye on that. I'm turning red. I don't know why.
I think it's the arugula.
That is weird, people. That's not what I usually do. Here we go.
I'll try to make sure you don't turn other colors.
All right. Well, I'm going to go check myself out. While we do that, let's hear from our sponsors.
Yeah.
Like usual, these sponsors are great people who are like us, shoulders to the status quo, pushing it uphill.
And we use their products.
We use their products. We specify them. And so
thanks for giving them a few minutes of your time.
Yeah. We'll be right back.
Yeah. We're back.
And we're back.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging in there. So, Phil, here we go. Housing crisis.
Yeah. So, why is it a problem?
Well, it's a problem because my kids can't find housing. So
Not just your kids.
No, it's actually everybody. We've across the country there is a housing shortage. Like here in Maine, I think there was an extensive study that was done. And we found that by 2030, we need to build 84,000 units, which in a state with a population of 3 million. No, I don't know.
I don't really know.
Google it, guys. You don't need us to Google it.
Way smaller than California.
Yeah, we're a much smaller state.
Like almost 100,000 units down.
Right.
And we're not one of the states in worse shape. Like if you go to California,
San Francisco area, you're just like it's struggling. It's in a lot of places, and we're probably not going to avoid politics in this. But if you find yourself on one side of the political spectrum or the other, and you feel like, oh, I'm going to tune it out because these guys are a bunch of screaming liberals, no, you may want to stick around because there's plenty of blame to go around with for both political sides of this.
Yeah. We'll say one of the things that Chris and I have both read, Abundance by Ezra Klein, and it's not so. It was really interesting for me to read this.
Yeah.
And it's not like our heads are not in this all the time. Like what we do, we design houses. We both work with multifamily housing. We do a lot of work in affordable housing as well. So we're very cognizant of some of these issues. But I think we're not sure how broad the solutions have been made to folks. And he makes a clear case. And in terms of what Chris was talking about in politics, he really points to both sides of the aisle and, points to ways we can come together to solve these things.
Right. So highly recommend if you put it on your list for your next read.
And so it's for us as architects who care about sustainability, we really push hard for the things that we believe in, but we confess that our side of the aisle has played a part in one of the reasons we don't have enough housing. Sure. So we want to talk about that a little bit.
Right. So just, some of the stats on this, since 2019, the housing prices have gone up 60%. And I would say that goes for new builds as well. And I don't know that, but it feels that way. You know,
Well, we were just kicking around numbers. Like, you know, I can remember not that long ago, we were talking about cost of square foot under $200 a square foot. You know, and multifamily affordable housing, it was, you know, 180 or something like that.
Yeah.
Before the pandemic. We were trying
which was, it seems like a magic number now.
Yeah, right. And before the pandemic, we were, you know, 300-ish.
Yeah, we were telling clients 300 and everybody like, oh my God, that's so expensive. And then we had the pandemic and now it's like, well, what you were thinking of, this expensive house I'm going to build is going to be $400,000, you know, pre-pandemic. And now it's like $1 million.
Yeah.
And it's like, so we find ourselves as architects often servicing the rich or the wealthy until...
And that's the time you and I cut our teeth.
No, not
Like,
at
we
all.
got it in a very different way. Like, we really wanted to work hard to have houses that Chris and I could afford. I mean, you know, I
Absolutely.
remember when we first started out.
Yeah.
Like,
in fact,
most of our design and build our own houses.
Yeah, most of our jobs were not for the rich people who were, you know, spraying money everywhere, but the ones who were like, I think this can be done better, and you're saying so, and I'm like, yes, and that they would hire us, and that's how we kind of grew up in this business, and we're still doing that. Like, we try to keep, you know, our office able to help the whole spectrum of clients, and yours goes even farther into the multifamily of large scale multifamily, which we're not going to avoid talking about in this as well. So that's kind of the setup. You know, we find, you know, renters are like, there's, you know, that rule, you should, you know, 30% of your income can be housing and the rest you're going to need for living and saving and all that stuff. And most renters are doing that and more.
And more, like up to 50%.
Up to 50% is not unusual.
Yeah, but even if a third of your paycheck goes to housing, that's
a big
swallow.
piece.
It's tough to live that way.
Right.
So we see a lot of people who are unhoused now.
Yeah.
And we just haven't built enough.
Right.
We haven't built enough in the last decade. So there's this dearth of building.
It's very easy to Phil and I, we live in Portland. Portland, Maine's a pretty, for Maine, a very urban environment. You know, for, you know, the rest of the country, it's an urban environment, but it's not like the big city. Like it is here, but whatever. But, you know, there's definitely a marked increase in the unhoused here. And it's very easy to walk by and think to yourself, you know, social issues or their own personal choices have put them there. It's not that, you know, it's not a housing thing. As an architect, you know, what's my connection to that person who's, you know, downtrodden as a design professional? And honestly, there is a problem of, you know, not enough housing. So like, who gets that housing? You know, I think Ezra Klein, even in his book, has that analogy of a game of musical chairs.
Oh, this is good.
If you have 6 people, you have 6 chairs. If one of those persons is on crutches or whatever, when the music stops, everyone's going to get a chair, even the guy, you know, in crutches. But if there's 5 chairs and 6 people, the music stops. Yeah, right. The guy in crutches. So the disadvantaged are easily the first people to be unhoused, and that when we see that, and I don't know, we're drifting away from the architect and the design thing. This is a social.
It really is, but like, you know, we're going to keep coming back to it, and we'll point to it a little bit more later. But you know, we have such a large role in this because one of the reasons that there's not enough housing is because there's a lot of housing that was pretty junky. Yeah. That is done with, like, it's not healthy to live in anymore because it wasn't designed and built well 30 years ago. Right. And, you know, and also it's like these buildings that were designed and built 30 years ago are kind of in bad shape now. Like, why are we designing and building houses that need to be, and multifamily buildings that are no good after 30 years. Right. Shouldn't we be aiming for 50 years? Shouldn't we be aiming for more?
And don't we have a whole bunch of affordable housing, you know, affordable housing from like the 80s, the 90s, even the aughts that are needing renovation and work now. And the people who got those, their energy bills went way up. So like one of the worst things you could do is do affordable housing for somebody and say, here, this housing was so cheap, your utility bills and maintenance will be huge.
And it's one of those things when people were thinking about this 20 years ago, they weren't thinking about energy costs being the way they are now.
Right.
It just wasn't in their minds. Things were kind of cheap. So we needed to put heads in beds then like we do now. But it was sort of a little bit more of a race to the bottom in terms of quality. And it's all coming back to bite us right now.
So one of the ultimate questions that we're going to start asking ourselves is like, are the things that we are advocating for adding cost to the project? And does that become part of the problem? Like we were going to talk about this later, about the elephant in the room being, are we the ones, the architects, saying, you need better windows, better insulation, better envelope management, and those things cost money? Are we increasing that cost and moving the goalpost, farther back and keeping housing from happening? Or are we, because we're insisting on those things, we're making it so that that housing is going to last longer before it needs those expensive renovations, before those upkeep items that need to happen?
Right. I think that's our goal, right?
That is our goal.
Yeah. So let me ask you before we dig into some of the specifics of that.
Sure.
One of the thoughts, so we are building houses for people who have the means. We're also working for some developers who are doing, private multifamily housing that's not relying on state funding. That's not typically affordable housing.
Right.
Are we still doing the right thing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe not.
I would argue, because I want to argue,
Yeah.
and I genuinely think it's true. So that is, the more housing we provide across the board,
The more housing.
the more housing there is. And I think there are people who are in the multi-family housing right now because that's their only choice. If we have more out there, because we're designing those things.
So in this game of musical chairs, you design a very energy efficient throne. But it is another chair.
It's another chair. So there's one more left for the other guy. And hopefully there's 2 chairs left.
Right.
That's exactly it. We're just adding to the inventory. Is it the best way? It's one way to do it.
It's one way.
It's going to take multiple ways. It's not, if we suddenly litter the country with 10-story affordable housing, it'll make a big difference. But there's still a lot of people who won't move into that. It's the reality of the place where we live. So we have to provide for everyone.
Can I throw out it's not a hypothetical, it's an actual, but an example, I should say.
Yeah.
So here in Portland, there's going to be a great, I should watch what I'm saying. There's going to be a building. It's going to be very tall. It's very confidential. It's designed by Moshe Softy. And is it 30 stories?
I think it's like 35. I don't think it's confidential anymore.
No, I don't think the project's confidential, but I wasn't prepared. I don't have stats in front of me on the building itself, but I think our tallest building right now is 18 floors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is 30 something.
Yeah, almost double it.
So this is very high, and it's very narrow, and it's very tall, and it's very modern looking. It has a little clear story thing. So
and a foot and sore thumb sticking up in the middle.
Yeah.
And I don't really mean that. I actually like the building. I'm all for it. But
I am pro building. Are there things I'd change? Absolutely. And that's a lot of people are like that. But there are people, even in our office, who are like, oh, it's luxury housing. It's hotel all in one thing. It's like, do we need more luxury housing? Do we need more hotels? We need more housing. And it's what is displacing is 14 parking spaces. And it goes up. Does it provide parking? No, I don't think it does. And that enrages people. Is it going to change the character of Portland's downtown? Yeah, it will. Is that a bad thing? Well, that remains to be seen, doesn't it? So
yeah, it totally does. I kind of think that let it change the character and let it be the first, and let there be more taller buildings in cities, because that's what cities are for.
Right.
Density, we can handle it here. Let's keep going up, and let's stop worrying so much about the sort of the inclusionary zoning that that's gotten us into this problem to a large extent in the first place.
And this is kind of where I was going with this example, because there's a couple of things at play. If I can pick on this building and pick on our town in particular, is you have an element of NIMBYism, where people are like, oh, it's going to bring about more tourists to the downtown. It's going to bring all the luxury people with their cars. They're going to displace my car on the street. They're going to wah, wah, wah. You can really pile it on. And all those points are valid and everything. But if housing is the goal, you got to build housing. Another thing that they point to is like, we have rules in Portland that it's 25% of the housing that you build if you're over if you're over 10 units. Am I that right?
10 units. If you're 10 units or above, that's
10 units or above, then 25% of those units have to be affordable housing defined by.
So you see a lot of people now building 9-unit structures.
Exactly. It's so hard in this town to build like a 3-unit building, an infill building. It is really hard, and it's because of all the regulations and the zoning and all that stuff. The 3-unit client, they're not like this corporate giant that's hiring. They may hire an architect, they may hire an engineer or two or whatever, but the depth of materials they have to present and go through all the zoning, sometimes historic, sometimes blah, on and on and on and on. And those are, Ezra Klein would argue, liberal policies. Those are, you have a lot more. As liberals, I'll throw us in the mix, as progressives who are trying to protect people from shitty housing, from poor decisions, and poor design. We are trying to build this process that keeps the guardrails on it, that creates a bare minimum of quality that gets built in a place. And that's all well-intentioned, but once it reaches a level that becomes so much of a barrier that it totally eliminates a whole sector that could build.
Right. And you've got these people who have houses who decide whether or not other people can get to build houses.
That's right.
It doesn't quite seem fair.
That's right. There's a lot of and a lot of times that affordable housing, people say, we want them in our neighborhood. Well, you could bring it right back to like an immigrant thing. It's like, good for you. You've got your house, you've got your place, but you didn't at one time. You got it. You were that person. So here we are. I forget who said it, but like if you have housing and you find yourself at a planning board meeting, you should kind of shut up if you're saying they can't have housing.
That's right. That's just kind of what I was just saying.
Yeah.
So we had a large affordable housing project that just got shut down in Cumberland about a year ago, and it was pretty awful because Cumberland, by all intents and purposes, is a pretty liberal town.
Yeah.
And
I used to live there
and
raise my kids there.
There you go. Case in point.
So it must be a great place.
Yeah,
it is. Actually.
And yet it needed the town's approval to allow affordable housing for, I can't remember, I think we were trying to do 80 some units, 3 buildings right downtown for workforce. And it got voted down 2-1. And it's awful. It's like it's
just too big. It's just too big, Phil. I'm playing out.
There's so much more at play here. It's like people are saying, well, you can teach my kids and you can take care of me when I'm in the hospital, and you can, put out fires for me, but you can't live next to me.
Right. But listen, it's in these NIMBY situations, not always is the person's problem with the project, they might have a legitimate thing, about the project that really needs to be addressed, or that hampers them, or that changes things for them. That's legitimate. But squashing that project because you just can't see change, you just can't picture in your mind a large building, on this street corner that used to be I don't know.
Right. You wanted to change. People are going to change the way your little town is, the way you're happy with it. And, you're not opening up the possibility of the future for for people that need housing.
Right.
And the people you rely on every day. It's just really short-sighted, and it's really not. It's kind of us not taking care of each other.
Right.
It's kind of and it's kind of painful to see.
Yeah. Can I do another example?
Please.
So, a client of mine had also in Portland had.
How's your neck doing? You doing?
I don't know. Am I okay?
I think you're gonna make it.
I don't know, dude.
I think we're both gonna finish this podcast. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to be. We said this can be really short. Or
You and I, we like to talk. I don't know if you noticed that.
anyway. So I had a client. He's got a 2-unit, but it's 3-story. He's got one of those attics that's just, it even has dormers in it and the whole thing. It's just not a unit, and it just has never been finished. And he's like, you know what? I could add a unit to this town. I could put a rental up there. Goes to the city of Portland. And just the rigmarole that he went through, just the hoops he kept on jumping through, needing to jump through, and he needed my help because they kept, adding things, barriers that, the coup de grace was the sprinkler system. They said, oh, it's another unit. Oh, Portland has a new sprinkler code.
Right, even for remodels,
even for remodels, it's a new unit. You need a sprinkler system. And he's like, oh gosh, how much is it going to run? To be, a sprinkler system in that one unit. And they're like, no, the whole building. So he's like, holy cow! So he just figured out that one item was like at the time $21,000. Open up the street, increase the line so that he can have a sprinkler system that services the building. How much rent do you have to charge to recoup $21,000?
Yeah,
a lot,
right.
And that's
years more.
Years and years more. It becomes totally unaffordable to do that. So he's just like, I'll finish it off, and it'll just be a nice space for us. So there's opportunity lost. Like, are we into solutions yet? Do we?
Well, what I want to call attention to is there has been movement. It's like we're not talking to avoid here.
Right.
Like the main Affordable Housing Coalition we're just talking about our state here. But I also know there's a lot of other states who have been working really hard on this issue, trying to increase density and trying to limit some of the regulations and some of the blocks that have been there in the state. So we need more density. And if there's more density, that'll help smooth the possibility of us building more and reducing some of the regulatory barriers.
Yeah.
There's something that recently got passed called LD 2003 in the state of Maine, which basically says if you've got a big enough lot, you can build 2 houses on one lot.
You can have
brilliant.
You can have an ADU.
Yeah, you can,
by law now.
Yeah.
So like even if your town,
and each one of those houses can have an ADU.
You can have 2 whole.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So it's kind of brilliant. So, accessory dwelling unit up to a certain size. I can't remember, like 800 square feet or something like that. And if you're in a growth zone, you actually can have 4 units now on one lot.
Right.
So now we're talking, like we're starting to move these things along. And, the counties are in Maine are having a hard time, some more than others.
Right. And some towns more than others, especially, you had towns before that were like, no ADUs. No, we don't do that. We don't do ADUs. And now you have the state that says, well, yes, it's the law.
Yeah.
You can have more than one. Figure it out.
It's awesome. And some of the things that are changing right now also is you have limits for a single egress staircase
good one.
for a 3-story building in Maine. But I want to make sure I don't get it wrong. NFPA says you can only go up 3 stories, but IBC says you can go up 4. So there's been a problem where they don't actually connect. So it's just, by the time this is aired, we will have passed the stipulation that they're going to bring those equal, and you're going to be able to do a 4-story building with 1 egress stair.
And that seems
one of the problems, obviously, with 2 egress stairs in a small building is that it just takes up so much space that you lose 4 stories of leasable area. So more density, more movement. Good job.
Right. And of course, to do that, you'll have to have a sprinkler system, of course.
Yeah. There's that.
But
I'm not saying sprinkler systems are bad things.
No.
Remodeling thing is really tough.
Right. And to be clear, neither am I.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, most commercial clients, even if they're like, if there's some loophole they don't need to do it, I'm like, can you imagine getting that phone call that you're, whatever building caught on fire last night and someone died. Like that right there.
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh my God.
if you stop and really think about that, and that sprinkler system would save their life, yeah, you would be like, yeah, I'll spend the money. If you're doing a big project, you're like, yeah, you're gonna do it. I can convince any client of that.
Right.
So in this situation though, where you've got, there are so many buildings without sprinkler systems in the city, this old, that to do that can be prohibitive to something even better. So not to marginalize the safety factor, because that is one of the things. We have lots of codes and regulations, way more than other countries. And
Yeah, they save lives quite often.
that is true.
Yeah, so it ain't nothing. So
It ain't nothing.
yeah.
All right.
So let's talk a little bit about the trade-off. So as for things that we have been advocating for many years, like triple glazing, like 1 foot thick walls with lots of insulation,
Sure.
PV,
Yeah.
heat pumps, only heat pumps, all electric.
Yeah.
Are we part of the problem, Chris, or aren't these things making all our buildings more expensive?
That's a great question. And I'll answer that question with another. No, I can do that. No, the answer is yes, or it's no. We are not.
Again, we're owning up to our shit here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you gotta look yourself right in the mirror. You gotta look yourself right in the mirror and ask yourself, am I part of the problem? Which, of course, if you're a sustainable architect, you've probably already done that, and you're like, yeah, the planet would kick us off if it could, if it wanted to, if it had the ability, because we're not helping it out. And I think you put it even in our notes there. Helping the planet is helping people. And so one of the problems with this housing crisis is people suffer without housing.
That's right.
And so, isn't it saving a person, giving a person somewhere to sleep at night? Isn't that just as good as saving some trees?
But people also suffer when they have to live in a toxic building,
Right.
or they're cold and they can't afford the heat. Like that's pretty serious suffering. So there's this trade-off. It's still better to, have your head in a bed. Absolutely. Right.
But like we said before, if we can make that building more durable and more serviceable for longer, then there is savings there. And then I've played out the numbers, and so I know you have too. Like especially things like solar, the ROI on an investment like solar. Solar is freaking cheap right now, even without the tax incentives. Go ahead, keep them, whatever. But it'll pay for itself in like 7 years. But there's that whole thing, paying for itself in 7 years. It's like if you don't have that money to begin with, it's a harder deal. But so if you're like an affordable housing entity that is funding these things, you will want solar on that building because it's going to be cheaper for the building for longer, especially when these prices start going way through the roof when World War III happens.
Well, let me pose this to you. Like there's a lot of wonderful affordable housing entities, but there's a lot of private developers now who are building less expensively than the affordable housing folks. And they can only do it because they're not dependent on trying to get the state money. So they're saying, we don't have to follow your rules. We can build what we want to build, and we can build micro units, despite the fact that you require a certain size. And they just can build to different specifications and do things that are kind of, really typical.
Because it costs money for a developer to go through the entitlements process. And the more money that an affordable housing entity gives, usually the more strings attached, if I can use that phrase.
And the longer it takes.
So
here we go, right?
And so that again, really does not favor the smaller housing development. It favors the bigger one where all that cost is amortized over many things. So it's like we're playing this game where like affordable housing happens in a large building, in a large spot, whereas like a city in Portland, and I'm sure the cities across the country, there's a nice little infill spot, a little vacant tooth where a 3-story could go and be perfectly fine. But the assistance available for that development doesn't really exist.
Right. It just doesn't.
So basically, it becomes all private. It becomes someone crunching the numbers and saying, I want it to be net zero, and I want to live on the second unit, and I want to rent out the other two so that my income rent pays for my mortgage and I don't have to pay any bills. Done. And then that person seems like a genius, but my God, what a lot of work and all that jazz. So anyway, idea for you kids out there.
I'm working on one, you know.
I know you are.
Yeah.
I know you are.
Yeah.
It's going to be just like I described. Only a little bit bigger, and a lot more fun. There's going to be a bar at the top. Is that right?
No.
Come on.
There's going to be a speakeasy in the basement.
A basement's in the basement. Our bar's going to be in the basement.
That's right.
And you kids are going to know where that is.
I don't want anyone to see us. They're going to be knocking all the time, Chris.
We'll see. It's going to be a secret.
It's going to be a secret. That's right.
But we'll be busy.
And my plan is I'm going to have a little website. I'm not going to tell you my plan because then everyone's going to be knocking. Never mind.
You're going to have to email thegreenarchitectslounge@gmail.com.
And then I'll consider it.
He'll consider it. You can open up a channel to plea for him for that information. All right, where are we?
So there's a couple more things I want to get at. Can we go too far with the sustainability thing? I'm going to say that we can. Okay. So like there is something that was enacted not that long ago in our city called the Green New Deal. And here we are, green architects, right? Saying, yes, good.
Yeah.
And I think
especially at the beginning,
who were really progressive who kind of pushed this through the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
And they didn't really understand what they were doing. They put a lot of things in place that were aggressive, like that you had to have LEED Silver certification. Right.
Right.
That's just
what year is this? Yeah.
And we were trying to do passive house. Well, passive house isn't on the list. I'm sorry, it doesn't work. Literally, they wouldn't allow our passive house. So we had to make a case.
So basically, you ended up helping them rewrite this.
I did. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back.
I'll do it for you.
My problem is that it was too aggressive, and they shouldn't have asked us to do this much in the first place. It was over the top. And this is from, again, people who want to do this and do it.
Yeah.
But understanding that developers will have a hard time and go elsewhere if they're forced to meet these very tight constraints. And honestly, like in a larger multifamily building, you don't need triple glazing. Double glazing might be just fine if you have individual heat pumps per unit.
A good double glazed window, well sealed. Yeah,
that's right. The ratio of skin to volume is very different in a multifamily building. So you got to think about these things a little bit differently. You don't necessarily need a foot thick wall.
Right. You can do it with R35, where we say R40 is what we're shooting for. But multifamily, R35.
Really strong. Right. And you don't have to have 4 inches of rigid insulation to the exterior.
Right.
You could have like a Zip R product. Right. There are purists who don't like that product, but I think it's very, very useful and very serviceable for affordable multifamily housing. And it starts getting those numbers down to a more reasonable place. And codes are starting to agree with us. Like, we started up here, so we pulled the codes up to here. So the IECC 2021 and IECC 2024 are really, really good codes right now. So we're almost there.
Right. But I'd still say that there's a challenge to us as the sustainable green architects to figure out those ways to improve the embodied carbon of these buildings, and the materials that we choose, and then the toxicity and all those things, all those rules, all those drums that we continue to beat. I will, and I know you will, keep beating them.
Absolutely.
Always. But always have one foot in the reality of what needs to happen for, the greater good.
Right. We need to get heads in beds.
You need to get heads in beds.
Right.
And
we also need to keep the planet, right?
Yeah. And you need to do it in the most sustainable way that you can, because we're still in the climate crisis. So solutions, we better get to it.
Let's go to some solutions. Yeah.
So one idea that it's not my idea. It's been floated around. I don't even know whose it was originally, but here, we've got a code enforcement office. We have, inspections, and that's a division of, code enforcement or whatever. and we have an affordable housing entity. But wouldn't it be great if there were, a permitting office that, or call it that they're there not to be the barrier that our code.
But they welcome you in and
They say,
how can we help you
help
get
you?"
this project done? How can we help you fill that site of yours in the easiest and most cost-efficient way?
A Department of Housing and Permitting. So instead of a client coming to us saying, I just got my ass handed to me by the code enforcement. I don't even understand what they're asking for. I don't know these codes. I need your help or whatever. Wouldn't it be amazing if you walked in and they said, okay, let me set up your account. Here's what you want to do. Here are the things that I'm hearing from you that you need to go sort out. Talk to these people, whatever. And you're going to need these things. Come see me in, a month. They come back and then they get guided through the municipal process until the permit comes out.
And you know what would be amazing?
What?
If that person, like the person you described before who came in who had that empty lot, said, well, I don't really know what to do here. Do I have to hire an architect? And that person in the permitting office said, no, we have pre-approved plans for you.
Amazing.
Right here.
If you like these.
That the state or the town paid for somebody to design these, and they're pre-approved. You can get this thing signed and built fast.
We need to figure out your utility connections,
just do it.
A few things like that. But the plan, the materials, the fire ratings, the widths, the clearances, the tempered glass, the blah, blah, it's all in this document. It's all in these plans. They're pre-approved. Here's the 6 unit. Here's the 20 unit.
Right.
Here's the 50 unit. Here's
or even just like the 4 to 8 unit.
Right. And as much as I'd like to say, hey, go hire an architect. You want an architect.
Yeah.
What a barrier that is to some people.
Yeah.
To have these opaque codes that are opaque to them of what they need to do, because the number of things you have to consider is enormous. And you need an architect, you need builder help, you need all kinds of help to get through these gates, these barriers.
And some places are doing this now, pre-approved plans. We've been talking about it for a while. The city of Bangor started doing it here.
Nice.
But it didn't exactly take hold. There's different ways to make it successful and different reasons why it hasn't caught on in different places, but it's a good idea. So we hope if you don't have that locally, that's something that you can push for with your state senators.
Yeah.
Congress people.
Great.
What other ideas? Permitting office, pre-approved building. I mean, the greater density we talked about, like push for greater density. The LD 2003 Act is something that we talked about before. Can you get incentives to build more accessory dwelling units on the top of your building allow some higher density in your backyard to build these things.
Yeah. And another solution, and really this is more advocacy. This is, get involved. In our conversation, Phil, I asked you, you and I have been to a lot of planning board.
Yes, this is good. Yeah.
You've been into a lot. I've been to a lot. They're usually our projects.
We go, Chris. We go because it's our project.
Because it's our project. We might see the project that's there that same night. But how often, I asked Phil, how often do you go to one of my projects or somebody else's project that is just, it's a housing project that's, somewhere over there, whatever. How often do you go and then say, you know what? Hey, I support this project. It's putting housing, these things are really well thought out, this, and this. The entrance could be better. That's my own opinion as an architect. Mm-hmm. But I think the board should really consider this project and sit back down. I almost never do that. And I know your answer to that is
same thing. Yeah. I remember I've done that maybe twice in my life.
Wow.
That's it. But I've written and things like that. But Chris and I were talking about let's commit to each other going at least twice.
Yep. So a year from now, you and I will have been to 2 other projects.
That doesn't sound like enough. 2 doesn't sound like enough. But let's
give ourselves those. Right? Yeah. These are projects that have nothing to do with us.
that we just think it was a good idea.
That we identified, that somebody mentioned to us, and we're like, oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's going to hit some opposition. Yeah, I'm going to go support. I'm going to go stand up. And then one of the reasons why we don't as architects is because, can you imagine, like, there's a developer and his fancy whatever, and you go in and say, this is an ugly building. You guys should not approve this. Or if we say anything like that, is that developer ever going to hire us?
Right. But
is that developer's friend developers ever going to hire us? No. So you got to be careful of the position that you put yourself in, because small towns talk.
But if I had a hotline to my younger self, I would call up and tell him to attend some more of these meetings when I was younger. Because I totally, when I'm at these meetings and if I see someone else who's younger who stands up and says, I believe in this thing, I want to know who that person is. Who is she with the great ideas?
Yeah.
Show up. Good for them.
Show up.
Yeah.
And I think even it was your partner, Jesse, who said, like, one young...
And Jesse does these things.
Oh, yeah.
Jesse is the rare bird. He goes to these things. Yeah. He sets a hell of an example for
us. And he said in one of his talks that one young person is worth 8 old people. So, this is kind of true, because, like, it is the people, renters don't show up.
That's beautiful.
And renters, like, quick side story. I live in a busy part of town, and when I first moved there, the restaurant right next door was cleaning their hoods at 3 a.m. and in the summertime, windows open. She's like, what? Sash goes, what did they do? And I marched over there, and I'm like, what are you doing? It's 3 a.m., Like, this can't be allowed. And they're like, no one's ever complained before. That's because that neighborhood is all renters. It's all renters.
Yeah.
Renters they're happy to have their house. They're maybe not there as long. And there's sort of like a sort of distance of feeling like you have the ability to affect change in your town, because maybe you're here for 5 years, maybe you're here for 2. You don't know. And so, like, I don't know, renters are younger, they're busier, they got, or maybe not. That's, there's a lot more going on. They don't feel that same ownership as the entitled homeowner who lives in their suburb or wherever, or their nice neighborhood where something's, so you go to these meetings, and usually it's the person who has housing, who has had housing for a long time, who is standing up and standing in the way of the project. And if there was a young couple with their infant saying, I don't have a place to live, and I'm going to live here if it gets through this body of governmental bureaucracy, I could live here. If that person were there, that statement would be worth 10 or 20 people standing up and saying, yeah.
Right. So it's our job to think of ourselves, to channel those people when we're doing that. When we get there, get up and speak.
Yeah.
Right. So, I've had the pleasure of working on some legislative committees and getting a little bit more involved. As some of you know, I have another company called Bright Build Home.
Yep.
It's based on modular housing, and I believe strongly that modular continues in offsite housing continues to be one of the solutions to the housing crisis because of the speed in which we can build, and it's getting a little bit more affordable.
Yeah.
But those are some of the things that I've pushed on recently. So modular to me is another way to start thinking about increasing the speed of these.
Well, and I also think, like technology, like maybe it was in the abundance book, I'm not sure, but it's like the.
Did I talk about printed housing?
Well, no, I don't know if it did. Not yet in the book. Anyway, I haven't finished it, but like in 1920, to build a house, a guy shows up maybe in his truck with a toolbox, hammer and nails and tools, and starts building a house. And in 2020, you go to build your house. It's basically the same thing. Guys or gals show up in their trucks and bring out the tools and start building a house. It's like the actual technology, by and large, there's some things that have changed dramatically, but it's
right. They're using the ones instead of
at its core, it's essentially the same. Yeah. Whereas, like, the revolution of, I know you're behind this 100%, like the modularization for it and like the panelization we've seen a lot. We're seeing a lot of, the worker environment changes a lot. You got a lot more, females and people who, are not, I don't know, some of the building environment. Let me rephrase this in a way. You don't have to be the tough guy working in 2 degrees, and God bless you guys, by the way.
Oh my God. Right now, 14 degrees outside.
14 degrees. And they're out there building.
They're framing away.
And singing while they do it.
Freaking heroes.
It's amazing.
Just heroes.
But that is a barrier to softies like Phil and me, right?
Yes.
Every summer I think, oh God, I could just spend the summer and just like jump on that building team and just build. Just to get my chops back, and don't tell everybody I'm an architect. Please don't. And I'll just do the thing, and I'll come back, I'll do this, and I'll learn some stuff and whatever. And I think that every year, and then it starts getting cold and rainy, and I'm like, nope. Well, I got poop in that blue box over there. No, I like a good seat in the warmth, uninterrupted with my iPhone game, whatever it is at the time. Too much information? Sorry, gang.
And so, on that note,
yeah,
you feeling like you got a little bit out, and that was kind of stuck in here.
Yeah, you know what? I feel like I don't know if we helped. I know this will help, and I know that
I feel better.
I feel better.
I feel helped.
I feel a little bit better. It's a constant thing that we do when we wrestle with, and it's on our minds. And, of course, we're going to pivot and go right into sustainable stuff and energy modeling and all that. And then there'll be an issue that happens out, in the world. And we're like, why is this housing nut so hard to crack? And, you've got, well, we did a good job avoiding politics in this, I feel like. Maybe we didn't.
No, I think we did okay. But, everybody's got to pitch in. It affects all of us, both sides of the aisle, whatever color your skin is, wherever your state of origin or place of origin. It doesn't matter. We're all humans on this earth, and we got to take care of each other.
Right.
That, I think, is the bottom line. And building more housing for all of us is our responsibility, us in the industry. So, let's keep all this shit in mind and just keep going for it.
Yeah.
Don't stop battling.
If you're tuning into this podcast, I already know that you guys are like the ones to come up with the creative ideas and the solutions and the innovations and the activism that it might take to change some of the structure and the bureaucracy in your own towns and or neighborhoods or whatever. So
get out there, show up.
Here's to you.
Do the good work.
Yours is clearly gone. I'm gonna go get.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna go through this episode, but we were too busy talking. Well, one of us was clearly.
Yeah.
One of us was busy drinking.
Yeah. Well, once the cameras are off.
Cheers to you.
All right. Cheers, guys.
And don't forget to email us at thegreenarchitectslounge@gmail.com.
Thank you. And remember, this is a social media type thing scenario. So like, subscribe, do all those, follow, do all those things that we don't really know how to do. So, because we're old. All right.
Thanks for tuning in.
All right. Bye-bye.
Cheers.